Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I have the good fortune that today I am both testing out the new version of full self-driving 13.2.9 in our Tesla Model Y, and also am in my old haunts where I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. So I am going to drive around Cleveland a little bit, which is different than Athens, Georgia, of course. And the first thing I'm going to do is go to my old house where I grew up. So you'll be able to see that. So we're going to go there first and we're going to test out 13.2.9. Not a lot of differences, although one difference I did notice in the navigation is that it says in the navigation here that we can now use third-party charging stations. So nothing to do with full self-driving as far as I can tell, but that is kind of a cool thing. So anyway, I'm going to press and hold. We're going to see, this is my friend Brian's house, and we're going to see if it'll back out here without hitting the grass. I think it will. Okay, good. Okay, so first step, good. So we're backing out of his driveway, and I can't remember how many minutes it is till Ormond, but so I was like, hey, I remember where I am. Okay, so a person is coming behind us, so let's see if this thing will go ahead and get itself into the flow of traffic. Yeah, good. And the person behind us was turning, but they waited. So anyway, so we got a 5-minute drive to do this, and then maybe I'll go to the lower campus of University School. I'm up here to visit my friends, and it's a quasi-reunion. My brother is 2 years younger than me, and he's doing his 40th high school reunion, good God. And I effectively am doing my 42nd, but they don't really do that. One thing you're going to notice is that Cleveland roads, not their fault, they have really bad weather because it freezes and thaws and freezes and thaws, and so you get a lot of potholes. So very different kinds of roads than I'm used to. I'm also filming with my wife's phone because I did not take a GoPro with me, so hopefully that will all work out. Fingers crossed. But anyway, so my brother had a reunion last night, Thursday night, for our school for his 40th reunion, and he was like, I'm going, and I was like, wait, me and Misinformation can go as well. And my friend Brian had just moved back to Cleveland from New York, where he lived for decades and decades. This is a protected left, by the way, so no problem at all here. And so yeah, we just used the opportunity, and we drove up yesterday, and we were on 13.2.8 yesterday. This thing updated overnight, so I was like, well, what perfect timing to be able to go and take a look at this. Wow, I've forgotten how straight the roads were in Cleveland. There's not, like, Athens is very windy because it's a more hilly sort of community. So let's see if that guy is, he was definitely pushing. He was like, I'm going to go first, but we had the right of way. The car was a little bit mellow there. It could have been a little bit more aggressive about this. So we are going to have to, the roads are straight, but we're obviously having to deal with a lot of traffic here. I don't know exactly. And this guy, oh, do you see that? I think it actually reacted to him waving. That is outstanding. Sorry about my voice. I've been traveling a lot. I was in LA, as you know, if you watched my last couple of videos. And before that, I was in Washington, D.C. to see my mom. And then I was out with Brian and Lane last night, having a nice time after we arrived. And so anyway, my voice is a little rocky, but everything is good. I'm very happy to be here. And yeah, oh my gosh, nobody stops that long. And I know it's not Tesla's fault. It's the oh gosh, not NTSB, goodness gracious, NHTSA. It's their fault for making Tesla have to do this, but it is really awkward because you go to the stop and somebody else is waiting for you to go because they're like, well, it's your responsibility, or your right to go, but I don't want to sit here for a half an hour waiting. Oh, wow. See, it knew there was a stop sign here. That's actually really good to see that. I'm going to extend the visualization, but that stop sign was completely hidden by that tree until just before I would have actually, given the look of this road, probably just ignored that and not realized it until I was passing. So it was very good that the car saw that, or kind of knew that in its navigation and saw it up ahead of time. So very cool. What was the other thing? Oh, the other kind of big news on the political front is that the current administration, Trump, has made a deal with the United Arab Emirates to put a gigantic AI data center there, which is, I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. I have not read the details at all at this point, but that makes me very nervous. It's the kind of thing where, I don't know, it would be a little bit different if it was the UK or Canada or something, where I feel like we have a very tight relationship, but yeah, man, I don't know. It just seems like that's going to lead to a potentially very, very problematic situation where other countries that we don't want to be using artificial intelligence at that high of a scale to be able to do training and stuff are going to have access to that. So that's my feelings. Maybe I'm wrong about that. By the way, did you see the way it just negotiated? 2 different kind of ground crews were working, and it just went right between them. So again, while the roads are straight here, it is doing an exceptional job of dealing with all the crazy traffic and everything that's going on. So even with straight roads, we're still having some interesting stuff going on. And I will, I'll attempt, well, I'm going to go back to the lower campus. So I went to school, I grew up in Cleveland Heights. This is, I don't know. My friend lives in University Heights now. Shaker Heights is right next to it, and Cleveland Heights is right next to it. And I have no idea where the actual boundaries between them are, but I'm pretty sure we're in Cleveland Heights now because we are on South Taylor. Yeah, we're definitely in Cleveland Heights. So this was my old haunts. Kane Park is down that way where I used to be, and just a couple of streets this direction is Ormond. And note that this is an unprotected left up here. There is no turn light, and so this Buick, yeah, I think Buick. Anyway, the other direction. By the way, I rented a Buick when I was in LA for just one day to drive around a Buick Encore, which I am pretty sure is made in China. I think that's one of GM's like Chinese, like not American vehicles. That was a piece of crap car. It was so bad. I was just like, good God, this is terrible. So this is weird. This is, you know how when you haven't been someplace, maybe, I don't know, maybe for those who are younger, you don't have this feeling, but this is the kind of thing where I've been gone. The last time I was here was 25 years ago, I believe, or something along those lines. Maybe more like 22 years ago or so. But, you know, this is my childhood, and I didn't visit a lot because my parents moved out of Cleveland Heights after I went to college. So I really didn't come back here at all since the early 1980s. So it's been 40 years since I've been in this area. And so there's this weird sort of overlay of my memory on top of reality. And like the church that I used to sing at and my dad preached at and everything, you know, it just popped up. All of a sudden we were there because I was like, where are we? And then I saw it and I was like, holy mackerel. And anyway, so this is Ormond, where I grew up, and it's actually beautiful right now. The leaves are out and everything. It's actually warmer than I thought. It's 23 out, but the sun is quite warm. I remember it being still pretty chilly in May for most of the time when I grew up. But of course, the 70s and 80s were kind of a mini ice age. The last real cold spell that we had. Okay, so I'm going to come up on my house. I will put a picture in here. I don't want to like stop to take a picture now, but my house is like right there, and it is wow, there's a huge, I'm going to just stop right here before we get to this gigantic, I don't know what the hell is going on with that. But anyway, so that's my house. I'll put a picture up. It used to be just kind of white-sided and everything. I just remember it being so much bigger, and there was a large maple tree in the front yard that we used to climb, which is no longer there. So kind of sad. Yeah, so anyway, I went to school here. I think I've talked about this previously before, but let's see if, I don't know if it's going to automatically go or if I think I have to re-engage. Okay. Yeah, I don't, because I didn't officially end the trip. So it's going to go over this really nasty stuff. Anyway, so I grew up here, and hopefully it'll take us down Lee Road. Oh my goodness, car. Okay. That I would have avoided. That it probably, yeah, sorry. I was doing the test. I didn't want to disengage, but I was like trying hard. Anyway, I grew up here. The library, which was my internet, is right there, and I spent a lot of time there. Different building entirely. They've redone the building, and this part is cool. They've got a bridge overhead and an art center here now and all this kind of cool stuff. But I grew up in the days before the internet, and I was extremely fortunate that I lived near a library, and I spent all of my time there just reading and reading and reading. And they also had a TRS-80 computer there, which was some of my first computer experience to be able to have that. I'm going to go by my elementary school here, assuming it's still there. Yes, it is. Okay, I haven't been back. So elementary school is there, where it used to be a more traditional school, and then they changed it to an open plan. And so I would walk to school from the time I was in kindergarten. But this was a rough town. Cleveland in the 70s was a rough town. Let me just adjust my camera here so it's back up a little bit. And so beautiful churches and stuff, though. I mean, my goodness, it's absolutely gorgeous. And these roads, oh my Lord, I remember this. I remember moving to the South and going like, wow, roads are so much nicer in the South than they are in the North, because you don't have to deal with like the crazy back and forth temperatures that cause potholes all over the place. So I guess weird, it's kind of slowed down. So anyway, I went to elementary school there up until 6th grade. I was getting beat up. It was a very, very rough area, and I was autistic, although nobody knew that because nobody diagnosed that stuff at the time, and also just a nerd. I mean, I love to go to the library and stuff. And so I got beaten up pretty regularly, and I was tortured quite a bit by people in my class and everything. So my mother, God bless her, she had me tested, and my parents had no money, so it's not like they could afford to put me in a private school or something. But they had me tested for university school, which is a private all-boys school. Still is, crazy enough, even all these years later, 50 years later. But anyway, so we're turning on Fairmount, which was, again, one of the main roads that I recall. Like, a lot of my friends lived on this and everything. Anywho, I ended up doing the test. The people there said, he's a white male. I mean, it's all male, but they were like, he's not a minority or anything. So this is going to be interesting because the car did not go here, and we don't have a protected, maybe we do have a protected left. I don't know. I don't think we do. So if we don't have a protected left, it's eventually going to have to get its way out into the world and put itself out there. Beaumont High School, which is a kind of a Catholic all-girls school, is there. At least it used to be. Again, this was 40 or 50 years ago. But I remember my friend Carl and I, we set off a few things like explosives and stuff. That it's a good thing that video and everything didn't exist back then, because we would have done things that got us in trouble. Anyhow, so anyway, my mom had me tested. They were like, this isn't going to work out. We can't give him a scholarship, and my parents couldn't afford to pay anywhere close to full price, because that just wasn't going to happen. But anyway, somehow I did well enough on the test that they were like, yeah, okay, we'll give him a scholarship to come here. So I went to US starting in 7th grade, and that honestly just completely altered my life. So it was one of those moments where if my mom hadn't been paying attention and hadn't said, nope, we're going to do this and we're going to test him and see what happens, my life would have been entirely very, very different. So anyway, so I went there from 7th grade through high school. My friend Brian that I'm staying with, one of my oldest friends, other friends, Carl, Austin, Jim, Rich. There's a lot of people that I'm going to see tonight at dinner, and then we're going in just a little while. It's 10:19. In a little while, oh my goodness, and this car is going to have to get itself. Okay, so now it's being smart enough to go out into the intersection, because I was like, we're never going to turn if it doesn't make it, because we don't have a protected left. So anyway, so yeah, I went there for 6 years, and there were 2 campuses. So there was the lower campus, which is in Shaker Heights, what we're driving to right now. And then I'm going to go back and pick up this information, and we're going to drive out to the upper campus out in Solon, and I think Hunting Valley specifically. Anyway, yeah, it sounds nice, right? Very, very snazzy. But I haven't been back there in 40 years or so, so it's going to be really amazing. I hear it's quite different than it used to be. But in order to get there, because again, my parents, like, we had one car, my dad had to take it to go to work and everything. This is fascinating. There's a person with a stop sign, and it is appropriately ignoring him. Good. So this is all like, it's doing such a great job that I'm just sitting here blabbing about random crap. So it's just amazing. It's amazing how good this car is now. And we drove here on 13.2.8, but we drove all the way up from Athens. It's a 12-hour drive, and it's the kind of thing where you just don't. The only thing I had to do was try not to fall asleep. I mean, it's so good at this point that it really just does it all itself. So this is a excellent little cafe that we went to last night right over here called Gigi's. That's new entirely. But so I would bike to school. This is where I would go to school. And if you grew up in the upper Midwest, during the school year, mostly it was really cold rain or snow or ice, and I had a little skinny tire bike that I would ride to the lower campus. And so for the first 2 years, because again, my parents didn't have an extra means of transportation, so that was it. It was either that or take the bus, but that took like an hour because of how slow everything was. And I would do that if it was super snowy, but otherwise I biked even if it was snowing and raining and stuff. And sometimes it would be half the day before my clothes would dry out. I'd be so soaking wet when I got to school, so it was pretty disgusting. So this is my uphill in the snow both ways to school, that kind of a story. But I'm like, my children just have no idea. It was rough, but I accepted it. The really rough part was when I started going to the high school, the upper campus. That required me getting to school extra early, because I would still go to the lower campus. I would park my bike there, and then there was a shuttle bus that would leave at, I can't remember, 7:30, 7:45, something like that, and drive the 15-minute drive out to the upper campus, because that was an extra 10 miles, and it would have just been impossible for me to bike that far under that. So, you know, I was on my own. This was the days before helicopter parents. You know, you didn't have a cell phone, you didn't have internet, you didn't have anything. In the summertime, my brother and I would just get on our bikes, speaking of, and we would just book it. We would just go. And all right, okay, so it probably could have gotten in front of that truck, but again, it's not. I'm not going to ding it for that. It's being more conservative than me by a teeny bit, but that's okay. So anyway, it was a very different existence growing up, and of course, no helmets. No, I have multiple concussions when I was a kid from just crashing and falling and bonking my head on things. So, you know, it was stupid, really, really stupid, but that's the way life goes. This is interesting. So this is one way, and it's decided it doesn't need to be in the lane with the truck. It's going to turn out of the left lane, which seems weird, but maybe the idea is, I think maybe it's actually aiming for the correct lane here. So, okay, yeah. So I think actually that was the correct decision, was it didn't want to be in the far right lane, although I think honestly it's got to be in the far right lane to make this next turn. In fact, it definitely does. All right, well, we're going to see how it handles itself, because it's got to make a turn here immediately. It's created a little bit, yeah, so it could have done a better job, again, that midterm planning, if it had been thinking ahead just a little bit to get into the right lane. That's the kind of thing where you still have to ding it, because it's still not planning quite as appropriately as it could be. This is interesting. So it's coming up on a little V thing, and it's got to get around this truck and make sure there's no cars coming. Cool. Yeah, sorry, the roads are so bumpy that I keep having to adjust my camera up, because my phone mount is like falling down because it's just bump, 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 bump. I do not miss at all these terrible roads that everybody had, but you can see it's driving really well. This is a very big intersection that it had to negotiate. Now, nobody was here, but still, it negotiated that with very high degree of confidence. And I think it should get us into the lower school. I don't know if the gate is going to be open. It should be. It's a Friday, so school should be going on right now. But this, like, that's the lower campus. We'll have a better view of it as we get in. So this was the original campus for US. I don't remember when the upper campus was built, obviously before the 1980s, before the 1970s, because I went there. But I think the school itself started in the early 1900s. So it's got a long history. It's well over 100 years old at this point. And it is interesting in the fact that it's still all boys. There's another school, Hathaway Brown, that is co-ed, and that's interesting. It did not go that way. So it's going to make a little weird U-turn instead. I think it could have gone the other direction. I don't know. But anyway, as long as it makes the U-turn, that's fine with me. I don't care. So cool. A little bit goofy, but I think it could have just gone across and made a left there. But anyway, and then there's two all-girls schools, at least last time I checked. They were Hathaway Brown and Laurel, and they're the sort of sister schools of US. So anyway, I don't know about all the details. I know US is still all boys school, but so there was equivalents and things. Yeah, it looks like the gate is down right now, so I can't go. I want to see what this car does. Oh, row. Is it going to go? Oh, major. Oh, okay. That was interesting. So the gate actually lifted, but I think the car was going to go right through that gate. I don't know that it saw that. So that is a major critical intervention, and I wish I'd pushed the button faster. I didn't do that. So yeah, oops. That definitely was a fail. I did not expect the gate to open, and also even if it had. So anyway, I'm just going to disengage for 1 second. Oh, you can't really see the tower here. But anyway, so the main, this was the entire campus here originally, and then they've kind of built on these wing buildings over time, so they've made it bigger and bigger. But this is all just the elementary and middle school now, not the upper school. Okay, so we've ended our trip. So cool. Let's see, where else are we going to go? I guess I'll just go back to my friend's house at this point. Yeah, we've been driving for 20 minutes, so we'll go there. I'm going to put it in park quick, and then let's just go ahead. Okay, so I'm going to put it in park, and we're going to hold this down, and we're going to go. And all right, here we go. Off we go into the wild blue yonder, passing a Tesla Model X over here. I can always tell from the door handles when they're together. And of course there's a spoiler in the back. I guess it's even easier. So I think we're going to have a chance to test out the yeah, the gate again. So I want to look here and see if it visualizes the gate. All right, I'm going to keep my hands and brakes. Okay, so it's not visualizing that. So it's definitely, that is an error. So, okay, let me see if I can. The vehicle is not stopping at a horizontal gate, which is exceptionally dangerous. That's a critical disengagement. So that's actually really unfortunate because the car has been driving so excellently so far, but that's the kind of thing, like the car will just go right through the gate, right? It'll crash into it. So, I mean, maybe the gate would have opened in time, but I could tell from the visualization that the vehicle was not seeing the gate. Vehicles, by the way, this is a consistent problem, and I know Scott Walter has talked about the same thing. I think it's in his neighborhood, that coming out of the neighborhood or somewhere nearby, there's a horizontal gate. You know, it's a gated community, and the vehicle is just terrible at seeing horizontal gates. It has to do with the nature of computer vision. For us humans, it's a little difficult, but we can see it, especially because it had the, the candy stripe on it. So we'll see that, but the way that vehicles work is they kind of, I don't know the best way to put it, they sort of bin everything that's horizontal together. So these lines and stuff, that's all part of the road. So the vision system is taught to ignore that, or else it would sit there forever and be too scared. Again, we're going through this really large intersection, really good job. The vehicle would be too scared to come out and interact with, to go past those horizontal lines in the road, because they'd be like, oh no, is it something in the air? Is it up in the air? Is it on the ground? All that kind of stuff. So the general gist of it is, my understanding is that because it's taught to ignore these horizontal lines, and of course it doesn't have radar, but even radar probably wouldn't work. Maybe high res radar would work. Definitely LiDAR would work because it would be able to see it. But anyway, it's taught to ignore all of that kind of stuff, and the consequence of that is when you have a thin horizontal line, even though to us humans we're like, oh well, that's obviously a post that's sitting up in the air, that's in three-dimensional space differently than in line with things. For the vehicle itself, it just bins that in with horizontal things on the road and ignores it, and that's just a huge problem. And it's the kind of thing that's a showstopper, basically, right? You can't have a full self-driving taxi with that problem still in existence. I forgot how wide the roads were around here. Jeez, they're so big. I don't know, Athens just doesn't have any roads this wide. Anyway, so that's a critical problem. It's the kind of thing, and I was hoping that Tesla had solved it, but clearly, even with the latest software, and I know that they're working very, very hard on whatever the version of software for the Austin full self-driving robo-taxi thing is, but if they don't solve that problem, they're going to have accidents, because the car is going to come up on a horizontal gate, and it'll be low speed, right? It'll be going like a few miles an hour, but still it's going to cause damage to the car, could break or bend the swing arm for the gates and everything. So that kind of stuff has got to get resolved. I hoped that Tesla had figured that out, but clearly they need to figure out the difference between these horizontal white lines, which are clearly in the road, and a post that's up. One way to do that, of course, is to use parallax, because you can use the fact that as you're driving up towards it, you're not just looking at one still frame where it might be difficult to see the difference between these things, but you can see it over time, and so you should see the fact that that horizontal arm is shifting relative to where it would be in the road. So if you imagine it laying flat in the road, goodness gracious, these roads. Anyway, sorry it's so bumpy. It's not my fault, and again, like I said, I don't think it's Cleveland's fault either. It's just really hard to deal with this terrible weather that they have, because it's just always over freezing, under freezing, over freezing, under freezing, and it just causes the roads to tear themselves up. But anyway, and we're home again. But you just have to train it to recognize the parallax and to understand the differences between them. Okay, let's see. I don't know. I think it should actually put me here, but this is too close to well, we'll just see where it goes. Yeah, so the house is over there. I don't know exactly what it's going to do now. Let's just see what it decides to do. Okay. Yeah, this is a terrible place to stop, because there's a person behind me. So I'm going to go ahead and go across the road. Yeah, so I gotta ding it for that too, because the very end, I don't mind if it puts us out on the street and has us sitting next to where the house is instead of in the driveway. That's fine, because we don't have that yet. but we definitely need to, it definitely does not want to put you out like right where a stop sign is, because that's illegal. You can't stop there. So I'm just going to drive back around again personally to get back there, and actually, why not have the full self-driving do it? But so while we talk, so anyway, if you think about this, you have a horizontal line that's painted on the road. That's going to remain locked in, right? The road and that line will move together, and it will remain. Oh, I don't have anything. I don't have a destination put in. Okay. Anyway, so that is one of the two options. The second one is if there is a horizontal post that's in three-dimensional space different from that, it is going to create a situation where, let me make sure I can turn around here. It's going to create a situation where the vehicle, where that is going to come disattached. It'll look like it's floating compared to the road over time, and so the perspective, the parallax will cause it to be different from the other one. So that needs to be in the training set a lot. They need to clearly work on that a lot and get that differentiation in there, because you don't want to cause any false positives either, because if you do that, then it's going to stop and get stuck at every sort of, crosswalk or anything like that has horizontal lines in it that are in the road. So it's got to be a situation where the vehicle can clearly differentiate. One of them is a color difference, because the post was clearly candy striped, and you don't usually have that kind of stuff in the road. A lot of gates are white with reflective stuff on it. They're very obvious. They don't want people hitting them, because even humans have problems, right? If we see a horizontal line, and we're not nearly as good at recognizing horizontal things as we are at vertical things like a tree. Horizontal stuff, for whatever reason, is much more complicated for humans to interact with. So that causes a problem in its own right. But then on top of that, vision systems are even worse at that. So this is something that Tesla is going to have to solve. And then the second thing, which was right at the end, which is like, what the hell? Why did it stop at the stop sign and say that's the end of the trip? Wherever it stopped, I don't care. Even if it had turned the corner and parked itself a little ways down, and it wouldn't have been directly in front of the house, but it's got to do something better than that. So I was really, the car is driving fantastically, but those two situations, the stopping thing, again, for a robotaxi, it can't stop there. I guess it could. The person behind you is going to honk if it's an actual robotaxi and the person gets out and then the car continues. But for me, in a vehicle wanting to be dropped off, right, if I want to go to my friend's house or something, I just want it to park on the road in a safe place that is legal, and then I get out and go do my stuff with my friend, get it back in the car later, and go home. So that's got to get fixed as well. It cannot drop you off right next to a stop sign. I've never actually attempted to stop it next to a fire hydrant. I'll have to try that as an experiment and see what happens. But that, and then especially the gate situation, that is a showstopper. You just can't have a robotaxi without human supervision that will run into a gate. It's got to visualize it. It's got to see the gate. Like I was looking that last time, I was having to split my focus. So if you saw anything that flickered, definitely let me know and I'll rewatch it as I edit the video. But I was wanting to make sure that we didn't hit the gate. But anyway, I was watching for it, and I never saw a situation where I saw it registering that as a barrier. And because of that, I think it just literally didn't see it. And that is a complete showstopper. It just cannot be a robotaxi that's going to drive on its own and just go through a gate. It just can't do that. That's property damage. It's damage to the vehicle. If it's a fleet car, that's on Tesla. They'll have to fix their own damage, but the property damage is not a situation that they want to get involved in. They want to make sure that doesn't happen. So that's got to be fixed. And again, maybe in the version that they have internally that they're using in Austin, because I hear there's just 30, 40, whatever. There's just tons of Teslas driving around and around and around Austin right now. And then most of Tesla's FSD team, I'm sure most of their effort currently is involved in getting all of that working. But again, if they haven't got that licked at this point, they can't release this into the public, because there's gated communities, there's gates around, there are horizontal obstacles that it's going to have to deal with. So it's going to have to figure that stuff out. Anyway, those are my thoughts. In general, the car is driving just fantastically, but those edge cases, and those not that big. A gate is not that big of an edge case. There's a lot of gates around that you have to go through. And then the stopping thing, I've never had it do anything like that before. That was bizarre, but that's also, hopefully that's just a one-off. I've never had it happen quite like that before, but anyway, that needs to get resolved as well. But I'm hoping that's more of a weird little corner case and not the usual thing. But anyway, in the meantime, let me know what you think if you have 13.2.9 as well. And hopefully after the full self-driving driving, you know, Austin special version comes out, which, by the way, if they have any kind of event or allow people to go and ride it on the first day, I'm going to fly out to Austin so I can participate in that. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that will happen. But anyway, like, you know, hopefully after the Austin release, they will quickly release one to the rest of us that is even better trained. And I will have to try to go find some gates around where I live to see if I can test it out. Actually, where I work, I can just go there. There's a gate there, and I can check out whether it actually stops or not and visualizes that gate as well. So anyway, there's ways of testing things, but definitely still room for improvement. And I'm a little concerned given the fact that we're only about a little over 2 weeks away from June 1st, and that, you know, the big Austin robotaxi thing is coming up, and that is not a situation. You really don't want that gate situation happening when it's doing it without a driver to intervene. So anyway, let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please do like it so other people can find it. And of course, consider subscribing for more of this kind of content, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.